So today, we're going to be looking at Revelation 17 and 18, which speaks about Babylon in the future. We're going to see four things that we're going to discuss in this video. The first is the one world religion. Babylon in the center of this one world religion. The second is what this one world religion is going to look like. The third, what this one world government and economy is going to look like. And finally, how it's all going to end up. So stay with me as we go through chapters 17 and 18 in the book of Revelation. But let's begin in chapter 17 and Babylon, the one world religion. Before we even start there, let's go back into the history of Babylon. Babylon is actually one of the earliest cities found in the Bible. The first time we see her is going to be in chapter 10, when we see Nimrod as her king. Continues into chapter 11, and the interesting thing is when we look at Babylon, she's not always going to be called Babylon. In fact, here she's going to be called Babel. She's going to be in the land of Shinar, which again is Babylon. So Babylon goes by many names, not just Babylon. But interestingly enough, if you look through the entire Bible, Babylon, in all her names, is the second most mentioned city in the Bible after Jerusalem. So as far as God's concerned, Babylon has a major piece to play in terms of the world's history and the world's future. Babylon was the city that first came in and destroyed Jerusalem and destroyed the temple of Jerusalem. Babylon was one of the great empires of human history. It was so great that today we look back at ancient Babylon and recognize how glorious it must have seemed. We see pieces of ancient Babylon in museums in Berlin, in London, in New York. One of the ancient wonders of the world were the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. As we look at Babylon from a historical point of view, Babylon was always a major player in world history. Now, unfortunately for Babylon, they did take over the Jewish nation, though God used them for that purpose. For that, God is going to punish them. Today, if we look into Babylon, we'll notice that it's just a small village. There's nothing really going on there. It's certainly not a city. But back in the 80s and the 90s, Saddam Hussein tried to bring Babylon back to its glory. And if you look online, you'll see pictures of the temples and of certain buildings that existed. That is not the old buildings that existed. It's built on the foundations of them, but that was Saddam Hussein trying to rebuild that city. Today, that's all that's left of ancient Babylon, but because we see it in the prophecies of Revelation and also in the Old Testament prophecies, we can know that there's coming a day that Babylon will be once again a major player in the history of the world. In fact, too many people think that Babylon should be taken just symbolically, but throughout the Bible, as often as Babylon is mentioned, the second most city in the Bible is only mentioned one time symbolically in Peter. So other than that, every time Babylon is mentioned, it's used as a literal city. And there's no reason for us to not believe that just as Israel had disappeared off the face of the earth for centuries and millennia, we can recognize that Babylon will also once again appear. This will happen in the future, during that tribulation time, and maybe even before it. The world starts building up Babylon in anticipation of it becoming this great city. So when we get to chapter 17 in the book of Revelation, we're going to see Babylon, the one world religion. And the way that's depicted is that we see a woman riding the beast. Now, we've already discussed how the beast is the Antichrist. Who's this woman? Well, this woman represents this one world religion. This one world religion is going to take over the world. we need to remember that when the rapture happens, there's going to be no Christians left in the world. That means there will be Jewish people, Hindus, Muslims, but there will not be any Christians left in the world. So what's going to happen at this point? Well, we're going to see the world start to look for peace. And that peace is going to come through religion. This one world religion is going to be a syncretistic religion. It's going to take a little bit from this faith, a little bit from this faith. It's going to take all the different faiths and put them together. But there's one thing that you'll notice that all faiths are always looking for, and that is peace. So what is this religion going to do? It's going to talk about peace. Peace is going to be the God of this religion. And as this religion syncretistically comes together, all the peoples of the world will come together trying to create peace. Now, you'll remember in our last video, we spoke about how the Antichrist was going to come as a man of peace. He's not a man of peace, but he's imitating the true Prince of Peace, trying to become the new Christ. And as he is becoming the new Messiah, he's going to send out this message of peace. He's going to create a peace agreement with Israel. And with all this talk of peace, this new one world religion is going to ride on that. So we see the woman riding on the beast. She's going to piggyback on the beast's message of peace, and that is going to be her God. The world is going to accept that message, and they are all going to move towards peace. But here's the fearful part about peace. Peace is not always peaceful. In other words, you can have peace in America, or you can have peace in communist China. In America, to have peace, you have to build a coalition and come together in peace. But in China, if you want peace, the government's going to come and bring tanks in and tell you to shut up or you're dead. Peace comes in many different ways. And the peace that's going to come in this time of tribulation is not going to be the peace that we are always looking for. It's going to be a peace that's forced upon us. And that's how this one world religion is going to be. In fact, it's going to force this peace upon us so strongly that when people start coming to Jesus because of the work of the two witnesses and the work of the 144,000, what's going to happen is they're going to get so upset at these Christians, they're going to persecute them and kill them. And that's what we're going to see is going to happen. The blood of the martyrs are going to be shed, not just by Antichrist, but also by the one world religion that comes and lives out of Babylon. Babylon is going to be like the new Rome, the new Mecca. Is going to be the place where this one world religion lives. And that one world religion is going to talk about peace, but is going to bring peace by destroying anybody who disagrees. And so we see this one world religion is going to be all about peace, but it's not a true peace. And that one world religion is going to start at the beginning of the tribulation period. It's going to last for 3.5 years. At 3.5 years, if you remember from previous lessons, Antichrist is going to die and rise again. And the false prophet is going to come and start telling the world to worship Antichrist. Because of that, at the 3.5 year period, Antichrist and all the rest of the world rulers are going to hate this new religion that had come, and they're going to destroy that religion. The beast is going to throw the woman off. And at that point, there will be a new religion. It will be the religion that worships the dragon and the beast. So this one world religion is going to be for the first 3.5 years of the tribulation period, bringing everybody together about peace, while at the same time destroying everybody who disagrees. But at 3.5 years, her usefulness will no longer be needed by Antichrist, and Antichrist is going to throw her off and begin a new religion that worships himself and worships the dragon. That brings us to the next chapter, the one world government or the one world economy. This also will be based in Babylon. In Babylon, what we're going to see is Babylon's going to be economically like New York, like London. Governmentally, it's going to be like Washington, D.C., like Moscow. It's going to be this one city where the economy is run and the government is run. So when this city is in its heyday at the halfway point of the tribulation period, people will be moving there and living there. In fact, we'll even see Christians living there. Now, some of those Christians might be there for all the wrong reasons, while others might be there for all the right reasons. In other words, to share the gospel in this city. God's going to tell them to leave that city. He's going to say, get out, because terrible things are about to happen. And what we're going to see is that city is very immoral. The Bible in chapter 18 says it over and over again about her immorality, and in many ways compares it to sexual immorality, but immorality nonetheless. Immorality in what way? The way it does business, in the way it goes about its culture. It's going to have this immoral concept. We're going to see that merchants are bringing in slaves as well as gold and silver. So we're going to see that there's going to be much immorality in this world, but especially in the capital of this world, Babylon. God is going to strike that city. In fact, he says he's going to strike it in a day, in an hour. It's going to happen so quickly. It will be unbelievable how quickly Babylon goes from being the center of the world to being destroyed because of what God's about to do, God's wrath upon that city. When that wrath happens, we're going to see all the people who are involved in the work of that city pull themselves out and mourn for that city. They're going to be so upset about the fact that now they can't sell their wares there. The center of the economic universe has been destroyed. Now they're going to have to find new ways to try to sell and buy. At this point in time, we're going to see Babylon so destroyed. Remember, this is the one world government where Antichrist is sitting and reigning from. All the kings of the world have given him their power. So he is reigning over the world from this place. And when this place is destroyed, several of the kings of all the nations actually rebel against Antichrist. And as they rebel against Antichrist, we're going to see that that is actually the start of what we call the Battle of Armageddon, which we will talk about next week. As that happens, Antichrist is going to be so angry with what's going on with the world and with his city of Babylon that he is going to just strike out in anger. He's going to literally become crazy with rage. And so the lesson we can learn from the city of Babylon is, one, God has a plan. And though we may not understand that plan will result in the best thing that can happen, the return of Jesus Christ. But also, we need to recognize that the world is right now preparing for this time in the future. We see people putting peace above all things, even if it means destruction of property, destruction of faiths, destruction of freedom of speech. We see that freedom is already becoming a world religion. Christians need to beware that though we follow the Prince of Peace, that we recognize that peace can come from nowhere except from the one who is the Prince of Peace. Our peace does not come from the world, it comes from the Lord Jesus. And so as we are here in the world, we need to recognize that just because people are calling for peace doesn't mean that it's actual peace. And we as Christians need to be wise enough to know when peace really isn't peace. Also, we need to recognize that there are going to be people who will want us to become part of a one world government, even now.
The world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies, from education to social contracts and working conditions. Every country, from the United States to China, must participate, and every industry, from oil and gas to tech, must be transformed.
And so we need to beware this one world government, because there are three things that cause the world to sin: Satan, our flesh, and the world. And when there is a one world government, that government will have the power to cause us to do things that we don't want to do. If we don't do them, we will be persecuted even unto death. And so the best thing for the church and for Christianity is to avoid that one world government. We need to beware that Satan today is working towards a new Babylon. He's working towards rebuilding it like Saddam Hussein tried to do. He's working towards a one world religion called peace. And he's working towards a one world government. Christians, we need to stand on the Word of God and know that no government will ever bring us peace. No government will ever bring us happiness. That we need to trust in the Lord, and we need to recognize that that is where our peace and our comfort will come from. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being with us. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. It seems that many of you are watching these videos, but few of you are subscribing. And for me to get these videos out into the world, YouTube needs to see that you like it and that you're subscribing. So please help me to share this message and the messages to come with the world by liking and subscribing. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining. Be with us next time when we talk about the return of Jesus. God bless you.